Since Bootstrap is just HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript behind the scenes, adding text and images is just the same as we've already learned. Let's begin by setting up our 3 sections to be 4 columns for medium devices and above. So change the call to be MD-4, and we can do this for all 3 sections. So add MD4 into these 2. We don't need these colors anymore, so we can remove the background, success, primary, and secondary. We'll have the content this time to see the difference between the 3 sections. Okay, so if we go back over to the finished site, which we'll have just here, we'll be building the images and all the text for these 3 sections. So this is our first 4-column section, our second, and our third, making up the 12-column grid. I've included some images for you to download if you want to use the same as me. If not, you can of course go ahead and choose your own if you prefer. I have these images saved on my desktop, and I'm going to go over to the project folder and add these to it. So here's my images folder. So I'm going to drag these into the Gourmet Burgers project. And with these now inside the project, we can now get to work with adding these to our website. So over to the index.html, we're going to be working in this container section. So first of all, this first call MD4, we can remove the text. And then add the image element, just like normal HTML, we add the source attribute. And I added these inside the images folder. If we open up the sidebar and then the images, we have carousel 1 and carousel 2 for the rotating slider. And we have 3 different images down at the bottom here, which we're going to use for the 3 sections. So if we close this down, the first one I'm going to add is open, and this has the .jpeg extension, the alt text, which we should always add. Okay, so just below this image, we can then go ahead and add some normal elements, such as a H2 for the title, and let's say over 50 restaurants. And then below this, some text with the p tags too. And for this, we had the text of treat yourself next time you were in the area. And you can change this to any text which you prefer. It doesn't really matter. Now over to our project and then reload the index page. So we can see we have an image, we have a H2, and then some text. This image is really big at the moment, but we'll fix that soon. Now down to the middle section, we can also remove this text again and replace this with an image. The image source this time is images/challenge.jpg and the alternative text of eating challenge image. Okay, so now below the image, so if we take a look at the finished site, this is the one we're looking for now. So the H2 of fancy a challenge, and then the text below of why not try one of our famous burger eating challenges. So beginning with the H2. And then the text below with the p tags. So burger eating challenges. Okay, so that's our first 2 now in place. And then the third one, remove the text, and then an image for this third one. And the source this time is sign.jpg. Again, in the images folder, sign.jpg, the alt text of reputation, image. So this is the third section, which is over on the right hand side, which is established 2003, and then some text below. So the H2, this could be any text of your choice. So over 15 years of high quality. Okay, so once you've included this, let's go over to the browser and we'll probably see quite a bit of a mess, to be honest, if we refresh. Yeah, so there's our 3 different images and the 3 sections because the images are far too big to fit in place. To fix this, we can add our own CSS file to override any of the Bootstrap defaults. So currently, if we remember in the head section, we have the Bootstrap core CSS, but this is just a base starting point for us to work with. Like we said earlier, it is encouraged to add our own style sheets. So if we go over to our project folder, and then we can add a new file. So styles.css for our custom styles. Okay, so now I'm going to target the col MD4 and then all the images which follow. We could of course add a custom class to this if we wanted to, but let's just stick with the classes that we have. So a width of 140 pixels to keep them quite small, and a height of 140 pixels too, because remember these are just intended to be thumbnail size images. And of course we need to link this in the index page. So our custom CSS always goes right at the bottom, so we can override any of these default styles from above. So the link relationship is style sheet, the href. So this is the same level as the index page. So this can just go in the href as styles.css and then close this off. Once you've done that, let's see how this looks in the browser. Good, so now all 3 columns are now side by side with the smaller images, the H2, and also the text. So the next content to add to this section, if we go to the finished version here, is these buttons which are down at the bottom. These buttons are pretty simple to add. These are just anchor tags with some Bootstrap classes to make them look nicer. So back over to the text editor and then to our first section. So just after these p tags here. So I'm going to add some more p tags and then nest a link inside. This link is going to have some Bootstrap classes. So this is going to be btn and then btn secondary. This will give us the grey colour that we've seen before. So this primary, secondary is kind of similar to what we used for the background colours when we looked at the grid in the last video. These are kind of default styles that Bootstrap provides for different elements. In this case, secondary is the grey colour that we can see just here. And later we use a different colour for this green section. So back to our button, btn, then btn secondary. Then we need a link, so the href, and we can just leave this empty for now, as we don't have any pages to link to. We'll add a role of button, and then the text inside of view details. After this, we're going to add this right arrow, which is this one just here, and this is done with a HTML entity. Remember, HTML entities begin with ampersand. The entity code for the arrows is RAQUO, and this must end in a semicolon. Save that. And then there's our button with the arrows on the right hand side. So I'm going to copy this button and paste it in to the other 2 sections. So I'll copy this link that we've just added in. And then next we can add this at the end of our second area. And then the third area, just underneath our reputation does not lie. So add that in 3 times. And now it's in our 3 sections on the screen. So these images now look a lot better. Now they fit inside the containers. But we can still take things even further with some Bootstrap classes to make the corners rounded. We can do this with a rounded circle class, which Bootstrap provides. So the first section here for the restaurants, inside the image, add the class of rounded circle. The same for the second image. And then the third and final image. And let's see how this looks. And we seem to have a problem for this middle one. We just need a dash inside of there. Okay, good. So these rounded corners are added with the CSS border radius. Bootstrap allows us to add this radius to the top, right, bottom, left, or a circle, just like we just used there, inside of here. We can see these classes if we go over to getbootstrap.com, and then if we go over to the documentation, and if we scroll down to utilities, so we have the borders, we can add border colors, and this is the one that we've just used, which is the border radius, and we use the rounded circle, which we see here. Finally, we can also align this new content to the center of each section, so it looks more aligned like these ones here. We can do this by adding a text center class to the container. So just after container, add the class of text center over to the browser. And this now aligns all the content to each section. Great, so now our content is centered. I'm going to leave this video there and move on to looking at Bootstrap navbars.